rivals co-promoted a fight was Leonard Duran No Mas rematch in 1980. Tonight's feature attraction is a 23-year-old former heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson. When last we saw this seemingly irresistible force, he was hitting the canvas in Tokyo. Another right hand, and now Tyson seems to be wobbling.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes.
It's over. It's over.
Mike Tyson has been knocked out. But first, we'll go back to the future with 41-year-old George Foreman. After a 10-year layoff, Big George has 21 consecutive wins on a comeback trail that up now has seen him cutting down insignificant timber. He's big and strong, though, and still powerful, and it may well be time to start taking George Foreman seriously. An intriguing heavyweight double feature tonight on HBO. We are live at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, where first tonight you'll see a heavyweight fight in the never-ending comeback of George Foreman as he takes on his first top 10 opponent, Tyson-Rodrigues. That bout is scheduled for 10 rounds. Then, former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson returns to the ring to face an old nemesis, Henry-Tillman. That, too, a fight scheduled for 10 rounds. We are in the outdoor arena at Caesars, where so many major events have taken place in years past. Duran, Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, Holmes, all the great champions of the 1980s fought at this historic site. Ironically, two who have not performed on the outdoor stage at Caesars are Tyson and Foreman. And tonight, for the first time, this arena opens up in a carnival atmosphere for two non-title fights. The eyes of the world, nevertheless, focus here on this ring and on two heavyweight fighters as they try to resurrect their careers. Hello again, I'm Jim Lampley, and we welcome you here for a heavyweight doubleheader which says a great deal, pro or con, as you may choose, as to the state of affairs in boxing's heavyweight division. And on a weekend when the NBA playoffs are no longer ongoing, and when many of you sports fans might be looking for something a little more pulse-quickening than 18-hole coverage of golf, a little bit higher scoring than World Cup soccer, well, here we are. The last time we came to the outdoor arena here at Caesars, it was a year ago to watch Sugar Ray Leonard in his second battle against Tommy Hearns. Tonight, Sugar Ray wears a tuxedo and works with us. And we look at Mike Tyson up the road a little bit, Sugar Ray. What is he looking to find out about himself tonight?
Well, the loss that Mike Tyson suffered at the hands of James Buster Douglas was not just a physical loss, but an emotional loss. Who was to blame, Mike Tyson or his corner? That's the big question. So it really doesn't matter who he's facing tonight. I think this is just a reassurance for Mike Tyson himself to see what's left.
So despite the fact that Henry-Tillman is not regarded by many as a worthy opponent, odds flirting right now at about the 17 to 18 to 1 level, you think there's still something to be gained for Mike?
For Mike Tyson, the opponent is irrelevant, although from a promoter standpoint, you want someone of name. But this is a big question that needs to be answered for Mike Tyson.
And those questions will be answered in the second bout of the evening. But the first bout, a little bit of perhaps more comic fare involving the Falstaffian character of George Foreman. And here with more on that, our Larry Merchant. Larry, could you have ever dreamed that you would be watching George Foreman on an HBO boxing bill of fare?
Not in my most terrible nightmares, Jim. But 4 months ago, there was Mike Tyson rolling around on the canvas hunting for his mouthpiece. Never expected to see that. And then we had a wonderful fight between Taylor and Chavez, stopped with 2 seconds left. Never expected to see that. Tonight, I'm just running away to the circus. When George Foreman came out of retirement, what I thought was, well, champions used to put on exhibition tours all the time. And then when people started to take him seriously because they were tantalized by a charming, fat old heavyweight, I just swooned at their gullibility. But here he is 3 years later, so I have to salute him. salute him for pulling off one of the great scams in boxing history, which, trust me, is saying a lot. One other thing I didn't expect to see, Jim, a doubleheader, Tyson-Foreman, in which Foreman is fighting the more formidable opponent.
Indeed, the most formidable opponent of his 22 so far in this particular comeback. But despite the apparent flimsiness of Foreman's credentials against 21 questionable opponents, public opinion shows that the general public is intrigued by his entertainment value and not terribly worried about George Foreman's health. And he has generated this broad appeal in large part by creating, in his second boxing life, a whole new persona.
This is Big George Foreman, the only boxer preacher who's above 40 and active in the world of boxing. What makes my career a bit more different than your ordinary boxer is that I've got to go out there and prove to the whole world that the age 40 is not a death sentence. And two, that there's no complications, no contradictions in a boxer being a preacher too. Sweet. They're all barriers, a lot of barriers that can stop me, but my age, you'll find, will be the least of them. 1967, I had my first boxing match. I won it by knockout. It inspired me to go on to be a Golden Glove champion in San Francisco, and then in 1968, making the Olympic team. When I won the gold medal in 1968 in Mexico City, it was the greatest event athletically in my whole life. There has never been anything to even top it in the world of sports. A happy day for George Foreman. I stood and I waved a small American flag because it wasn't a protest nor an anti-protest. I just wanted everybody to know that I was from the United States of America.
A lot of men have fell and stumbled because they met Big George in that old square jungle.
It wasn't too long before I was the #1 contender. I was about to face Joe Frazier in Kingston, Jamaica.
Frazier's knees buckled. He is down.
6 knockdowns. Can you imagine George Foreman, a guy who was maybe 5-1, 6-1 in some places, knocking Joe Frazier, the great Joe Frazier, down 6 times? I couldn't believe it either. A great champion, but I caught him a little off by surprise. He thinking, underrating George Foreman, I became heavyweight champion of the world. Then came the fight in Zaire. It's Muhammad Ali against George Foreman. What should I do? People are telling me, don't hurt Muhammad Ali, and I'm thinking that's what I specialize in. But if he be a good boy, I won't hurt him, I'll only knock him out. Then, after 7 rounds, listening constantly to Muhammad Ali telling me that, well, that's all you got? That's all you can do, George? I'm lying on the canvas thinking I was devastated, embarrassed before the whole world.
This is an incredible scene. The place is going wild. Muhammad Ali has won. Muhammad Ali has won.
After becoming #1 contender again for the championship of the world, I had one stop-off, Jimmy Young, St. Juan, Puerto Rico. I lost that fight, a 12-round decision, but going back into my dream that night, to cool off, I had another experience. I met up with something I never thought that I would ever meet up with, a vision of death. In a split second, I was out of this world, back alive again in the dressing room, screaming that Jesus Christ was coming alive in me. This vision not only scared me, but it brought me to heart about there's other things other than fame and fortune. How about a creator somewhere out there who had his eye on me all the time? I was alive, but I had to go tell this story for 10 years all over the world about how Jesus Christ had touched my life. Then in 1981, we founded the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ right here in Houston, Texas.
The proof that you love Jesus Christ is that you love the ones he died on the cross for. Amen.
In this church, we found that the highest calling that you can get is to mop the floor, sweep the bathrooms, pass out Bibles, stack them up, see that the church is neat at all times. And the one who do that the most, he's the highest preacher around.
He must be telling the truth because he don't even have to waste his time and come here. He could do other things. He have money. He could be other places, but he's somewhere trying to help somebody. And I think that's very nice.
He's for real. He's a good guy.
I had more. And that's why we have the George Foreman Youth Community Center, a happy medium where kids can come and not even hear a sermon or anything about religion, but I can show them that I care about them. And we can provide role models for them. People, we can prove for a fact that everybody's not out there stealing stereos.
Remember, the more relaxed the show lives, the less tension, the less you get tired. Make it as natural as walking down the street.
It was near Atlanta, Georgia, 1987. I was out seeking money, donations for the George Foreman Youth and Community Center. Then I decided right there on the spot, this is not the way to do it. It sounded like I was begging for money to help kids. I said right then, I know how to get money. I can become a boxer again. And on the road to the title, there are a lot of people over 40 who are pulling for me. In actuality, they're pulling for themselves. I've got to be successful to show them that if you're 40 and above 40, they can use the word potential. And in the end, that's what it's all about. It can happen. I didn't come back for the Cadillac in the window, one big payday. I came back to be heavyweight champ of the world.
Part of George Foreman's odyssey in this comeback, up and down the scale. Merchant.
Yes, his first return fight, he weighed 267. Here he is 3 years later, 263. You've heard of the diet formula, what is it, Slim Fast? I think
Fast.
George has developed Slim Slow.
George's comment on the subject: when he was a boy, he was hungry. Now that he can afford it, he wants to have food. Thus, scenes like yesterday's weigh-in.
George Foreman weighs in at 263 pounds.
It was far and away the biggest moment of an otherwise uneventful weigh-in for both of these heavyweight bouts. And now, Adilson-Rodrigues, the Brazilian fighter whose biggest public appearance in the United States prior to this was a second-round knockout loss to Evander Holyfield, comes into the ring.
You have to feel that George Foreman allowed himself to be matched with this man because he comes out of his own. George Foreman's central casting. Foreman figures he doesn't take a punch that well, he doesn't punch that well, he doesn't move that well. He's got the whole package. But he has beaten a few recognizable names in the heavyweight. Crusher Smith and Quick Tillis, which more than any of Foreman's earlier opponents have done.
A look at Rodriguez's record, and of course you saw his one other large asset preceding him into the ring, the man in his corner, Angelo Dundee, who was the trainer in the opposite corner when George Foreman first lost a professional fight back in Zaire in 1974. What will Adilson-Rodrigues have to do against Foreman and vice versa? Ray Leonard's tip of the night.
Oh, Jim, this is elementary. For George Foreman, first and foremost, he must establish that strong jab because it's like a bomb because he's so heavy-handed. And George must use that 263 pounds of flesh to out-hustle and out-muscle Rodrigues. Just beat him to the punch, make it a physical fight. Now, Foreman hates movement because he can't get set. So for Rodrigues, he must make George Foreman work. Make him work every round, every minute of every round, until George is no more. Because this heat here becomes a factor also. A good matchup.
We widened the camera lens out just a little bit now to make room for the next man into the ring, 41-year-old George Foreman.
Humming to himself, and he will be greeted by a great cheer. Everybody likes a jolly fat man.
Well, one thing people love about him, you saw right there, the highest knockout percentage in the history of all heavyweight champions, 91.2% knockouts. He had extremely heavy hands in his first incarnation as a heavyweight champ, and that's one element of his game that has not changed a bit. 20 knockouts in 21 fights since the comeback began in 1987.
Okay, I got you.
HBO market research in anticipation of booking this bout demonstrates that George Foreman is, among women in the United States, far and away the most popular boxer. More popular than the man who's number 2 on the list, Sugar Ray Leonard. Sorry, Ray.
Oh, that's okay. I take my hat off to George.
Well, he's been making the talk show circuit for the last 2 years. I have to think that has something to do with it. And now the crowd responds to George Foreman.
You know, George is a man on a mission. I mean, although he's 40 years or 41 years old, he's out there to win the title back.
I figure Foreman is a sort of combination of William Perry and Nolan Ryan and Roseanne Barr.
And there are people out there that lives vicariously through George.
most remarkable thing about Foreman really is the transformation of his personality and character. He reveled in being another Sonny Liston when he was a young man, a real angry, uncooperative human being.
66 victories, only 2 losses in his career, to Muhammad Ali in Zaire, and 2 years later to Jimmy Young in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was at that point that he had a religious experience and became a Bible-thumping preacher. In Foreman's corner, one of the greatest figures in the history of the sport.
The great Archie Moore. Foreman makes you climb in a tree, not ripe to fall off. The reason for that is Archie Moore, well into his 40s. A great, great man, an original character. Look at that record. When I was a sports writer in Philadelphia, Jim, he used to write 8, 10-page letters to me from San Diego.
Filled with wit and wisdom. Now he whispers that wit and wisdom to George Foreman, who enters the ring 9 years older than his opponent. And Rodrigues is no spring chicken by heavyweight standards. Foreman with advantages in height. He's 44 pounds heavier and has 7 inches more reach.
And the punch stat numbers, for whatever they're worth, because these numbers were garnered in a fight that Foreman knocked out Cooney, while Rodrigues was knocked out by Holyfield. But you saw that Rodrigues made a bad mistake against Holyfield. He was too active. He has to be less active in this fight. And there you see their jabs. Rodrigues can throw a jab, and Angelo Dundee wants him to keep throwing the jab and keep moving.
The rules are those of the Nevada State Boxing Commission. 3 judge scoring on the 10-point must. No standing 8 count. You can be in the last round only. By far the most significant rule by our lights for these bouts, the 3-round rule effect. Now go up to answer Chuck Hull.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesars Palace Sports Arena, where tonight Don King Productions, in association with Caesars Palace, presents The Road Back, an evening of world-class boxing. These bouts are sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Dr. James Nave, chairman. The commissioners at ringside tonight are Dr. Elias Ghanem, Dwayne Ford, Jay Nady, and Luther Mack. The executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission is Chuck Minker. The officials assigned by that commission for the next bout of the evening, the judges will be Bill Graham, Dave Moretti, and Jerry Roth. The timekeeper is Mike Lachella. Counting at the knockdowns, Al Bisick. The attending physicians at ringside, Doctors Flip Pomansky, James Game, and William Berliner. And your referee is Carlos Padilla. This is the co-main event of the evening. 10 rounds of boxing in the heavyweight division. Introducing, in the blue corner, fighting out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, weighing in at 219 pounds, with a professional record of 36 wins, 3 defeats, with 26 KOs. He is the South American heavyweight champion. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Jose Adelson Rodriguez. And in the blue corner, from Marshall, Texas, weighing an even 263 pounds. His professional record consists of 66 wins, 2 defeats, with 62 KOs. He is a former heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman.
Okay. That robe looks like it could cover Albania.
Okay, Rodriguez. George, you were already given instructions in your respective dressing room. Any question?
None.
Okay, seconds, come out fighting.
Look.
George stooped while the referee was giving instructions to fight with his height.
Rodriguez has to fight this fight like a gambler with loaded dice who refuses to bet. He's got to be very conservative and try to stretch it out.
Wonder if that's what Dundee was whispering to him there as they prepared to move to the center of the ring. Of course, the robe has already covered something here that's bigger than Albania, Larry. It brought him into the ring. Rodriguez looked terrific for much of the first round against Holyfield. And then he got rocked with a right hand in the second round and went to sleep. And he initiates most of the action to begin against Foreman. George will take his time.
I don't think Rodrigues is going to be too effective being mobile. I think his best bet is pretty much not to move as much and try to land some stiff punches. On the move, he doesn't have as much leverage behind his punches. You know, it's a lot of slapping blows.
Well, in the early going, he's been pretty accurate with the jab. Body a couple of times. That's not hard to find. Rodriguez's body isn't all that hard to find either.
Well, George Foreman is trying to get that jab off. I tell you, his defense is very, very unique. It reminds me a lot of Ken Norton, although George covers up a lot more body.
George likes to deny that he has any particular strategy in the ring. He'll say that that defensive posture is just to make his opponent think a little bit. But it proved effective against Jerry Cooney, at least in the second round when he knocked Cooney out. And it presents an unusual picture to an opponent. George crossing his big arms in front of his body a lot.
The way a man can connect with George Foreman is to throw double left hooks to the body and to the head, or to the head and to the body. Because, again, the way George protects himself, his defense. While he protects one part of the body, the other body is exposed.
George, for the most part, has been a little short with the jab. Rodrigues has landed several to the left side of George's face.
No, step up. Step up. Step up.
George is so economical in the ring. I mean, he doesn't really waste anything, although I don't think he can afford to waste anything at this particular weight.
Put it up.
But he takes his time and he lands those big punches, like the jab there.
Okay.
And as one Kevin Rooney pointed out, and I think it's good observation, exceptionally calm. He looks as though he's engaged in some accounting business rather than boxing.
Put it up.
That was a good round, I thought, for Rodrigues. Let's see if he can keep it up. George Foreman stands corner. He said he isn't wed to the idea. He just feels more comfortable that way. And watching this fight in his locker room, the once and perhaps future champion.
Round two begins. George Foreman in the blue trunks, Adilson Rodrigues of Brazil in the white. Rodrigues at one point had risen to become the #3 contender in the eyes of 2 of the 3 world governing bodies. That was prior to his second round knockout at the hands of Evander Holyfield.
You know, George Foreman does some weight training and take that body, that midsection.
George seems mildly amused at the moment by all of Rodriguez's footwork. He's sort of dancing lightly around after him.
Well, he's taking his time.
Okay, bring it up, bring it up.
And he gets an appreciative chuckle from the ringside crowd for the daintiness with which he set up that posture to deliver a punch.
He's very relaxed. I just don't like that hand down. He drops our right hand, George Foreman does. And I don't know whether or not Rodrigues sees that or can do that. Throw the left hook.
Body punches by Foreman. There's already a little bit of soft redness around the right eye of Adelson-Rodrigues, and Foreman landed 19 punches in round one. According to punch stat computations, 17 of them were jabs. Foreman trying to come with the uppercut. Angelo Dundee is the biggest mistake you can make against Foreman is against him and change by uppercut.
Well, being a man, Foreman normally overpowers his opponents. He gets more leverage punching down as opposed to punching upward. The game plan for Rodrigues and Angelo Dundee, I'm sure, is to make George Foreman work. And good uppercut by George.
Foreman twice coming up and under with the left hand. And remember, when you're watching George Foreman, you're watching a man who has been known to knock opponents out with glancing blows. His hands are so heavy that what becomes a knockout punch doesn't always look like one, and Rodrigues goes down. Case in point.
Well, that's what Rodrigues is here for.
He's done his job. 2 minutes and 39 seconds of the second round, and with a series of blows begun by a pair of left-hand uppercuts, George Foreman puts away Adelson-Rodrigues.
I didn't think George Foreman was hitting that hard when he first made his initial comeback. I figured it was just arm punches, but it's apparent that the man still has power.
Unbelievable power, Ray. As I said, they don't look like knockout punches. He hits you with glancing blows, and the next thing you know, a guy is in serious trouble.
Well, the way he starts off, he throws the jab, the right hand, and it's grazing right hand. That shows how much power. A nice, picture-perfect left foot by George Foreman. But I also believe the lighter George Foreman is, the better he is. He throws better punches, better combinations, with a lot more accuracy.
You'll play hell convincing him of that.
I doubt that very seriously. And here's another shot. George Foreman, wherever he lands a punch, it's able to hurt his opponent. Rodrigues backs away, slightly dazed. There's the right hand. Then he comes up with that beautiful left hook.
So at 2 minutes 39 seconds of the second round, Adelson-Rodrigues has his second round knockout loss against a major American heavyweight contender, and I guess that's what we have to call Foreman now.
I expected more from Rodrigues, but apparently George Foreman has much more to offer than we are led to believe, or myself.
Total punches in the bout by punch stat computations. And we told you that Foreman landed 19 punches in round one, but only 2 of them were seen as power punches. The other 17 were jabs. Altogether, he landed 39 punches in the fight, a 60% connect rate. Rodrigues was the busier fighter, but once he was in trouble, he stopped punching and absorbed a lot of punishment from Foreman before going down. Right now, let's go up to ring announcer Chuck Hull for the official decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 2 minutes, 39 seconds of the second round. The winner by a knockout, the former heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman.
Well, this should be entertaining. Let's go to Larry Merchant with George Foreman.
George, analyze the fight for us. It shouldn't take you longer than the fight.
Well, it's interesting. Whenever you're in the ring with Angelo Dundee fighters, you're halfway scared anyway because you know he's got some trick up his sleeve.
What did you expect?
I expected a lot of movement, which I got. I expected the guy to cover up a little bit more, Tyson-Rodrigues, than he did. I didn't expect a quick knockout because I figured he'd be moving for 4 or 5 rounds. I'd probably get him about the 7th round. But he started trading punches with me a little earlier than I thought he would.
You've been very careful about picking opponents. I'm told that you study tapes carefully before you get in the ring with anybody.
And if they can whip my mother, they don't go.
Well, in that case, did Rodriguez fulfill your expectations of him?
He was a little more punch. He punched a little harder than I thought. I didn't know he would open up with so many punches. He surprised me with that. He's been here, lost to Holyfield, and he went over and got a good win in Europe. That kind of bothered me because I knew his timing would be there. But other than that, everything went according to plan.
George, you used to fight everything very hard. Everything you did was intense. Now you seem like you're out for a stroll in the ring. Has that helped you in any way?
Well, I fight so often now, and then if you do it often, you get more relaxed. And I know exactly what I can do and what I cannot do. And I don't try to force things that I can't possibly do. Doesn't matter what people say, I just try to be the best fighter I can. And you get older, you know, I'm about 40 or more, and as you get older, you start getting a little more wiser too. Youth and enthusiasm are great, but age and craftiness is really fine for me.
What do you want to do next? What is the next step in this brilliant campaign of yours?
I hope to think that maybe the winner of this fight tonight and the winner of the next fight with Mike Tyson and Tillman, that they'll match us both together. I think the people really deserve to see a true heavyweight fight now.
If the scenario unfolds with Holyfield fighting Douglas in the fall, and then perhaps one of them wants to fight you, is that okay with George Foreman to fight one of them for the heavyweight title?
I would sure love that. That's the ultimate goal, to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. When I do that, then I can go back and be a good farmer and whip up my children. They're beating me up now because I can't hit them. They whipping me up. But if I can get that over, I'll just wrestle with my little boys and play basketball and things of that nature.
Just one more thing I want the folks out there to hear from your lips, George. You've got 3 sons named George.
Yes,
George the first, George the second, George the third. Now explain why.
I'm Daddy, then there's George Jr., there's Monk, and Big Wheel, and I love them all, but I didn't want one of them to have a great name, and the other would say, why didn't you name me, Dad? So I decided to start a tribe.
Okay, maybe a George the Fourth is on the way too. And now back on the way back to ringside and Jim and Ray.
Well, Ray Leonard only has one son named Ray, but he has plenty of other credentials to do what he just saw. I suppose you'd have to suspect that a few less people are laughing at George Foreman now than was the case 20 minutes ago.
You know what George Foreman is actually doing in America? He's creating marketability and credibility. Forget about who he's fighting. In the fashion that he's able to knock away and do away with his opponents, people start to believe in George Foreman.
Should there be any trepidation at all about the fact that George is 41 years old? Does he really stand to get hurt if he goes up against a Mike Tyson or a Buster Douglas or an Evander Holyfield?
I think someone needs to ask Archibald that same question. Age is in the mind, and I think as long as you take care of your body, George apparently has been preserving his body and his weight, but George does a tremendous job. I'm very impressed.
Does he look to you to be the hardest hitter in the heavyweight division?
No, I still think Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas ranks up there as far as the heavy hitters. But again, Jim, it's deceptive. It doesn't appear like George is hitting hard, but once he hits the guy, he totally paralyzes his opponents.
Well, let's take a look back at second round action, and we'll take a look at the series of punches that led to the knockout.
Well, when George Foreman lands a punch, like it's a grazing right hand, and then he comes back with left hook, that was a lot of power there because he had his whole body, 263 pounds behind that. George Foreman is a big puncher, and it's very hard to gauge whether or not he's the same punch he was as a champion. But here, when he hits his guys, they stand still and they drop.
Let's clarify something you said a few moments ago before we went up to Larry for the ring interview. I think I heard you say that you think George is better when he's lighter, more accurate, more effective with his punches when he's lighter. Did you mean to say better when he's heavier?
Well, he's proven to be wrong. I think George is quicker when he's lighter. It proved against Jerry Cooney. He threw more punches, combination, and the accuracy was there. As he gets heavier, he's a little more lethargic, but he's still effective. But I prefer to see a lighter George Foreman if he should face a Mike Tyson.
Indeed, he was about 10 pounds lighter against Cooney than was the case tonight at 263 pounds. And right now, for a look ahead to what might happen in the heavyweight division in the wake of this second round Foreman knockout of Rodriguez, here is Larry Merchant.
All right, I'm here with those 2 lovebirds Don King and Bob Arum, and also with Mr. Henry Gluck, who's the chairman of the board of Caesars. Let me ask you fellas, what do you have planned for Big George?
Well, I think before we talk about that, I think Henry Gluck has a real momentous announcement that he'd like to make, and then we'll come back to us.
Okay, Henry, what is your momentous announcement?
Well, first of all, the momentous announcement first was to have Don and Bob and Tyson and Foreman all in the ring at the same time. But what they're referring to is we're Cosmo International, big multi-divisional, multi-international firm is building a huge resort, and we're going to be managing that with a Jack Nicklaus designed 27-hole golf course, and it'll be a Caesars Canyon resort and a Caesars Canyon golf course with a tennis center for 2,000 seats and many, many attractions. We're very proud of that, and it's a big evening for us in this first announcement.
Thank you. And you thought we didn't have commercials on HBO.
You understand? Because this really leads in to what we're going to do. If Mike comes through his fight that's coming up.
A very small if.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. All right.
But he's going to be ready.
Right.
He's going to be ready.
Then what we'd like to do is to come back here in September and do it again. Another doubleheader with George against a top 10 opponent and Mike against the top 10 opponent. We'd like to do it here at Caesars Palace because it's truly the home of champions.
Don, in the event that the Douglas Holyfield fight comes off at a hotel in this area, and you happen to be a part of that promotion, does this mean that your love affair with Bob will be brief and over?
Absolutely not. I think that what Bob and I are doing now is finding out that working together works and establishing a dialogue and communication that enables us to find out what our weaknesses and strengths are, and we complement each other's strengths and have strongly help support the weaknesses. All right, so we keep working together.
All right, explain in your words, in 10,000 words or less, of 8 syllables or less, what is the phenomenon of George Foreman?
George Foreman is like a Rip Van Winkle fight. He went to sleep for 10 years, and out of that hiatus, George has come back awesome and devastating, more so than he was before, because now he has a personality to go along with the devastation and the power that he had wreaked before when he was wreaking havoc in the heavyweight division. George is something that makes every man over 40 have a vicarious pleasure in seeing that life begins at 40, and he's the true personification of it.
How would a Harvard man put it, Bob?
George Foreman, simply put, is the best heavyweight in the world. I don't care if he's 42. I don't care if he's 22. He is the best heavyweight in the world.
Now, that's the question on that. That's the one thing that we don't agree on, but we said they got a chance to find out. That's what we can get together and settle it.
But also, he's come back such a wonderful person. His humanity, his decency shines through, and that's what enamors him to the public. Not only is he a great, great fighter, but he is a wonderful, wonderful person, a warm human being, and I think everybody out there in America sees that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do you two guys at ringside see that?
Well, my first question to Ray is, can anything good come to boxing as a result of Bob Arum and Don King working together? Does that put you at pause just a little bit?
The resurrection of George Foreman makes boxing a lot nicer and more acceptable. George Foreman is a breath of fresh air. I want to say that.
All right, and you give credit to Arum and King for having created the circumstances under which George can be seen in this particular forum, I take it.
George Foreman is a breath of fresh air.
Ever the diplomat, Ray Leonard, who does his boxing deals through an independent authority, Mike. Mr. Arum claims that George is the best heavyweight alive. Do you think he really believes that?
Well, I guess by promoting the George Foreman fight, I mean, what should he say? But that's yet to be seen. I mean, you got Buster Douglas. He's a champion. They must beat Buster Douglas first before someone make that claim.
There's considerable talk, of course, that the September doubleheader that Arum and King referred to there, which would match Foreman and Tyson once again against a pair of opponents here, is designed by its scheduling to take the thunder away from the now signed heavyweight championship fight scheduled for September 20th at the Mirage between Buster Douglas, the champion, and Evander Holyfield, the #1 contender. What will the public be more interested in? Another Tyson-Foreman doubleheader, assuming that Mike gets past Henry Tillman tonight, or the heavyweight championship bout between Douglas and Holyfield?
I think the anticipation relies upon this fight tonight with Mike Tyson. What the intrigue is what's left for Mike Tyson. Does he have anything left? Is there a new Mike Tyson? That's the big question, Jim. I think people are not going to jump ahead until they see what Mike Tyson does tonight.
Of course, the quote from Seth Abraham, Vice President for Acquisition of Boxing Properties here at HBO Sports, is that we have right here in the persons of Tyson and Foreman, the only two heavyweights who sell tickets. Douglas and Holyfield are apparently going to get the chance to disprove that notion through some marketing of their own. This is a fight, nevertheless, which has attracted a great deal of attention, or at least this doubleheader has attracted a great deal of attention from the celebrities who often populate the boxing world. Billy Crystal here tonight. You see Michael Douglas sitting near the ring. And I saw earlier Jeff Goldblum and his wife Gina Davis. The Reverend Jesse Jackson entered the ring environment tonight in the Tyson entourage and in the company of Don King. Chuck Norris, Jack Nicholson, a regular habitué of these fights. And surely it's got to make Tyson and Foreman feel good as aspiring champions rather than title holders to see all those folks here.
Well, the fact of the matter is, when these guys fight, it's an event, and that's why you have these celebrities turn out.
To continue the event, let's go back to Larry Merchant.
Gentlemen, now I'm surrounded by some prize fighters, some pretty good prize fighters. James Buster Douglas, the heavyweight champion of the world. Buster, give a quick analysis of George Foreman. Do you think he's a real contender, or is some kind of a joke being put over the public?
No, I wouldn't say that he's a joke by no means. I think he's a worthy contender. You know, he's been out there for some 2 years now on his comeback trail, and he's been winning. Nobody has defeated him, so you would have to consider him as a contender.
If you were to fight Evander Holyfield in the fall and successfully defend your title, would you consider fighting him before you went back to Tyson?
No, those are not in my plans at the present time. My plans are to fight Evander, defend it against Evander, and then in turn give Tyson a rematch.
Now, you look a little bit beefier than you were in Tokyo. You haven't fought in 4 months. I don't know if you've been doing any gym work. How much do you weigh, and when do you start going back to the gym?
Well, I opened up gym officially in Columbus, Ohio, at Fitness Trend Health Spa, the first Monday in June. But I'm right now, I'm carrying about 242 pounds, which is not too bad. And that's about my weight, you know, before I have from 50 pounds to take off to be prepared to fight in September.
Thank you very much, Buster. And now, Evander Holyfield. Evander, presumably you're going to fight this man in September, but first, you've made some news in the last day or so. You've announced that you're separating yourself from Ken Sanders, your manager, who had been with you since your amateur days. What's that story about?
Well, I felt that it was a good business decision for me to go on without him, because I felt that he wasn't working in the best of my interests. So we had so we depart in a good manner.
Will he share in your jackpot for fighting Douglas?
Yes, I feel that he deserved his share. He's been with me, and he have advised me well in the time.
Your quick assessment of George Foreman. You stopped Rodrigues in the second round also. What did you see out there? Do you consider him a real contender?
Yes, I do consider him as a contender. He's been out there. He fought 22 fights now. He won them all. He just fought Allison Rodriguez, was the first top 10 opponent. And he went out there and did it in good fashion. You can't take nothing from him.
Well, let me ask you the same question I asked. If you should win the heavyweight championship in the fall, would you go after Foreman, who you might consider an easy opponent for a lot of money, before you defend it against Tyson?
No, I would fight the #1 contender. I feel that Tyson's still the #1 contender. He deserved a shot.
Thank you, Evander. Now to you, Jim.
Ahead to September 2nd, who do you favor in Douglas Holyfield?
Well, I think with Buster Douglas coming off that amazing win over Mike Tyson, he has the edge. He's bigger, he's stronger, and I'll give him the edge.
All right, that's another story, and we'll take care of that one in September. Meanwhile, on this night, we have finished with Chapter 1. And now we turn our attention to the darker mysteries involved in Chapter 2. For a look at what lies ahead for young Mike Tyson, it might be instructive first to look back. Comeback weaves an unforgettable thread through heavyweight history. Jack Dempsey was an INAC champion for a 3-year period when in 1926 he met a 3-1 underdog named Gene Tunney. The slick challenger outboxed Dempsey over 10 rounds, and the title was lost. 1 year later, after one tune-up for Dempsey, the rematch in Chicago. Dempsey dropped Tunney in the 7th, but the long count saved the champion. Tunney knocked down Dempsey in the 8th, en route to a 10-round decision. Dempsey refused a third fight and retired in 1928. In 1936, Joe Louis, a 22-year-old heavyweight contender, fought former champion Max Schmeling. The Brown Bomber was knocked down in the 4th and out in the 12th. The meteoric rise of Joe Louis was derailed. But after he won the title, Louis's 4th defense was against that same Max Schmeling. After 3 vicious knockdowns, it was stopped at 2:04 of the first round. Joe Louis held the championship for 12 years. In 1959, heavyweight champion Floyd Patterson fought a 3-1 underdog Swede, Ingemar Johansson. The champion went down 7 times in the 3rd round. At age 24, Floyd Patterson had lost the title, but for very long. A year later, he took in the 5th. Patterson became the first heavyweight champion ever to regain the title. Then Sonny Liston, after 2 one-round knockouts of Patterson, fought an 8-1 underdog named Cassius Marcellus Clay. Clay outboxed the Bear as Liston failed to answer the bell for round 8. 15 months later, the mysterious rematch. Liston went down from a phantom right in the 1st round. In 1970, in Las Vegas, Liston died of a drug overdose. Ali went on to win the heavyweight title a record 3 times. Which brings us to Mike Tyson and his monumental upset loss to James Buster Douglas. Douglas coming back with a left right. Tyson is wobbling. What an uppercut by Douglas. Down goes Tyson. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The night's big question, can Tyson come back? Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, where former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson returns to the ring to face Henry Tillman. It's scheduled for 10 rounds. So many great heavyweight champions have lost that title. Now Tyson takes the lonely journey back into the ring after his crushing loss in February. What does the future hold for this once invincible force? Tonight in this historic setting and in front of an enthusiastic boxing crowd, we begin to get some of the answers. Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson is a student of history. He well knows that all of the great heavyweight champions, with the sole exception of Rocky Marciano, have lost at one time or another. How much consolation is that to him?
Well, if there's any guy that doesn't need motivation, it's Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is like a walking boxing library. I mean, he knows about these history. He knows how to game that type. So Mike wants to be in there with that elite group. So I'm sure he's already motivated for that.
He's also one of the most entertaining figures in sport, regardless of whether you like him or not. Because Mike Tyson's life is so densely rich with circumstances and events that it's become our custom between each of his appearances in the ring to chronologue those battles he takes on outside the ring. The period between February 10 and now has only continued the tradition. February 10, 1990. For fight fans, a night to remember. For one fighter, a night to forget. Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson. The challenger, James Buster Douglas. Another right hand, and now Tyson seems to be wobbled. Mike is not throwing back. Buster Douglas is completely dominating this round with jabs and right crosses.
I wasn't focused on the fight. I didn't apply myself.
And then the right hand uppercut, and down goes Douglas. As suddenly as that. Can he beat the count? He got a little overconfident.
far as the count was concerned, I thought definitely that the fight was over.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
It's over. It's over.
Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
Unbelievable.
Let's go ahead and call it the biggest upset in the history of heavyweight championship fights.
In the beginning, you have so much life, you have so much to give to the world, you have so much to offer, and you want to offer to everyone, you want to show and prove. And then after a while, you know what I mean, you take it for granted, and everything, you try to do everything instinctively, and then you slip.
The heavyweight championship was lost, or was it? 45 minutes after the official decision in Tokyo, there was controversy over the 8th round knockdown of Douglas. The WBA and WBC withheld their recognition of Douglas. Finally, in New York, Mike Tyson conceded the loss of his titles.
I never considered him for a loser because I didn't protest. I just gave my opinion on the incident I saw. I mean, titles are meant to be won and they're meant to be lost. These things happen.
Shortly after, Mike Tyson went back to the Catskills, to the home where Customado had once taken him in.
I never thought about the fight once I was home. Never ever thought about it. But I was just not in the mood to hear like, how you doing? Are you okay? Can I do anything for you? No, you can't do a goddamn thing for me. I'm just over here relaxing. I don't want any company.
Then isolation turned to despair. On February 21, the former champion was back in New York. His sister Denise had died of a sudden heart attack at age 25.
As soon as the fight was over, I hung out with my sister. That's all I was doing. I was hanging out with my sister. Nothing's important in life. Wealth, only thing that's important is health. Everything else is an addition.
After the funeral, Mike Tyson was whisked away to Las Vegas. There he lived a Spartan existence, leaving his home only for 2 hours a day at the Golden Gloves gym. No press, no writers, no publishing of his workouts. Fight time near the door was open, but in the door was slammed shut.
I'm just telling you, no way. Okay, all right.
I didn't go into isolation. Like somebody said, we're not hearing much of you lately. You know what I mean? I was like that before. You didn't hear much. You just blew it out of proportion.
The ex-champion surfaced at 2 multimedia news conferences in New York and Los Angeles. He seemed a kinder, gentler Mike Tyson.
That was a good moment to grab excuses. I got a lot of money to spend before I kill myself. I was 100 to 1 got my ass kicked, not long.
We create our own stories, regardless what it is. Even if we're not looking for it, we create our own monsters. You know what I mean? I create the guy that likes, to go in there and beat up people and whatever. They take that concept and they put it in a whole different meaning of life. And that's because what I created.
Finally, it was back to Las Vegas, where he was with girlfriend Natalie Fear's born son named D'Amato.
First priority is him. People say, having a baby is too hard. You get goofy every now and then you see the baby. Yeah. Other than that, when you're not around them, it's just totally, you just think about them a lot. That's all I do, I always think about them.
But the fighter's mind is also on boxing. Another late development was the hiring of Rich Giacchetti, longtime trainer of Larry Holmes. Some said it was a reaction to the corner work in Tyson Douglas. The ex-champion disagreed.
Everyone's a critic. Whatever went wrong is because of me. You know what I mean? And that's what I keep my, because when it goes right, I always say it's because of me it went right. And regardless if you have the best quarterman in the world, if you can't fight, it's useless.
Many great heavyweight champions have lost the title. A precious few have fought their way back to the top. Mike Tyson likes to quote reggae singer Ziggy Marley, who said, "You realize you make it because you're living it." Of history. When last Mike Tyson and Henry Tillman met here at Caesar's Palace in the indoor arena 6 years ago, it was to determine who would go to the Olympic Games. Tillman won that trip. Tyson earned a trip back to the Catskills compound of Customato. So much has changed since then. Now they prepare to meet under entirely different circumstances. As HBO Sports brings you the second of our heavyweight doubleheader on this evening, Mike Tyson against Henry Tillman in a bout scheduled for 10 rounds. Tyson's return to the ring, and we return to Larry Merchant.
Youngest heavyweight champion, youngest ex-heavyweight champion. The philosopher George Foreman explained it this way: Mike Tyson runs into every wall he sees, meaning if there's a chance to make a mistake, he's made it, seized it, embraced it. But that, of course, is the perspective of maturity. Remember, we all embraced Mike. We were his youthful aggressiveness, his exuberance, at least until it turned self-defeating, self-destructive. Well, it then became, the fight in Tokyo happened after that, and what that was the gods delivering a message to him in the name and in the person of James Buster Douglas, an unlikely messenger at that. Mike Tyson now says that Mike Tyson is dead, buried in Tokyo. Is he? We'll see. But the question of whether he's one of those seemingly invincible fighters who stays down when he goes down, or who gets up, won't be answered tonight. He has made a small step by rededicating himself, but he's taking no chances in his opponent, Henry Tillman.
The Watts riots, 1965. Anarchy in the streets. It was Henry Tillman's playground.
I was scraped from the bottom of the pan, from just a juvenile delinquent in a youth authority in California, born and raised in Watts, come from, you know, basically a poor family, but a strong, sturdy family that stuck with me through whatever ordeal I came face to face with.
And at 21 years old, Henry Tillman was one step away from prison, but he was sentenced to 4 years for armed robbery, result of a craps game gone awry. Over the next 2.5 years in the Wayward Youth Authority, his attitude changed. During that time, Tillman became a certified welder, earned his general education degree, and learned to box.
It's a phase that you go through as a child, being raised around those type of environments. Some eventually grow up, mature, and break away, and some never mature and break away.
But Henry did break away, and after only 2 years of amateur experience, made the 1984 Olympic team. Proving all the skeptics wrong, he twice defeated a teenager named Mike Tyson. They first met in the Olympic trial. Tyson scored a knockdown, but for the most part, Tillman fought intelligently and used his jab and footwork to stay away from Tyson's bombs. All 5 judges were the former dead-ended play. Then 1 month later at the Olympic box office, this time Tyson was clearly more active, and the older fighter seemed listless and detached. Though the scoring was closer, the result remained the same.
From Los Angeles, California, in the red corner, Henry Tillman.
Some ringside observers felt Tyson had gotten job, but nonetheless, Tillman forged ahead to the Olympics and captured the gold medal 4 miles from where he had grown up. At the Olympics, Henry also met his bride-to-be, Gina Hemphill. Granddaughter of Jesse Owens, she carried the torch into the Coliseum at opening ceremonies. 3 years ago, they were married among friends and Olympic teammates.
She's my superwoman, because she had been over backwards for me. She's even put her own career on hold for a little while just to support me in my career.
A career that started out with promise, but quickly nosedived when Bert Cooper and his defeat. Months later, Tillman was battered by his Olympic Evander Holyfield, a loss that many say took an irreversible toll. Over the next 13 months, Henry suffered 2 more defeats and hit rock bottom.
And so I said at that point, I need to just take some time out of boxing before I either get hurt or just ruin my career myself if I keep going in there not mentally prepared to compete as a boxer. And so I just stepped out of boxing for a minute.
But that minute lasted 20 months. In the interim, he landed a role in the upcoming Rocky V movie dabbled in the real estate business, spent some time with his family back home in South Central Los Angeles, and most importantly, found himself a new manager, trainer, and friend, a man named Henry Grooms.
He said I would be crazy if I let boxing go right now. He said, you're young, you still have a lot of spunk left, a lot of fight left in you, but you just need to take a little time off, get your management problems out the way, get your mind clear, go home, spend some time with your wife, your family life, and just let life move on a little bit, because you're just too young just to let boxing go right now. You've never been hurt, never been knocked out. He said it just doesn't make any sense.
Maybe life doesn't always make sense. 6 years ago, fresh out of the youth authority, Henry Tillman's future as an amateur fighter went through Mike Tyson. He was successful twice and earned the greatest reward imaginable. Tonight, after a long layoff and a resurrected career, Henry Tillman's path to greatness once again leads through Mike Tyson, now the former heavyweight champion. For Henry Tillman to score a hat trick, he'll need to step out of the shadows of anonymity, just like he did in 1984. Gold medalist prepares to enter the ring. You see there his professional record, 24 fights included in those 5 years, one 20-month layoff from the sport. Maybe the neatest and most compact phrase I've heard to size up Henry Tillman was issued by the outstanding ABC Sports boxing expert Alex Wallo, who said of Tillman, he has the heart of a warrior, but not the chin of one.
Too brave for his own good and his own body.
Of course, that statement was made about Tillman at a time when he was fighting as a cruiserweight at 190 pounds. He claims that he is much more resilient and steadier now as a 250-pound.
Tillman would love to relive those 2 amateur losses he gave Mike Tyson, trying to relive those moments of glory.
He's a sweet man who's made something of his life from terrible beginnings. But I'm afraid for this night, he's just a frog being fed to a snake.
Well, on the bright side, he believes, Larry, that he wrote the blueprint for beating Mike Tyson with his 2 amateur victories over him, and that Douglas merely stole a page from the script with his Tokyo exploit.
A lot of people knew the blueprint, having seen those fights. But even forgetting the fact that Mike Tyson is a whole lot different fighter than he was as an amateur, it was only Douglas who could execute the blueprint.
In 24 fights, Tillman has won 20 times, lost 4. He's had 14 knockouts of his own. You heard him say in the profile that he has not been knocked out, but he has indeed been the victim of technical knockouts by journeyman fighters like Dwayne Bonds, in addition to outstanding ones like Evander Holyfield. What must Henry Tillman do against Tyson? What must Tyson do again, gaining his glory? Ray Leonard Stipple.
Well, when Mubs and weave, he becomes an illusion. That upper body movement allows him to slip, get inside, and to attack his opponents with those devastating combinations. Speed, combinations, and power is synonymous with Mike Tyson. He must get mean, get aggressive, stay on top of his opponents. Now with Henry Tillman, Tillman needs to box, get inside, throw his punches, and get outside. Stay out of harm's reach. Don't fight Mike Tyson. That's a mistake so many guys have made other than Buster Douglas, who's successful. Don't fight him, box him. Use that ring as much as you possibly can, and you should be able to turn the tables around.
And now you see the Tyson entourage beginning to emerge from his dressing room. One of the new faces there, just behind Tyson, just out of the shot to camera right, is Rich Giacchetti, the longtime trainer of Larry Holmes. Tyson's reign of terror over the heavyweight division lasted 3 years and 3 months until February 10 stateside, February 11 in Tokyo, when Douglas took the title away.
Tyson's mind here. He doesn't seem quite the eager, intense fellow that he was as a young man, and I guess he shouldn't be. He's not 18, 19, 20 years old anymore, but I think I see a more mature Tyson who wants to take care of whatever business he has tonight.
There are some who say, incidentally, that the left eye has never fully mended from the beating it took from Douglas in Tokyo. And as you look at that close-up shot, you can see what appears to be some discoloration under the left eye and some puffiness around the outside of it. Now, Ray Leonard, 4 months have passed. Is it possible that eye hasn't fully healed from what Buster Douglas did with it?
He's had adequate time for that to heal and get back to normal. But I'm sure it depends on the type of training he went through, the type of sparring he went through that made that possible again, the swelling.
And there are a lot of question marks about that because writers and reporters were not allowed access to Tyson's training session to anywhere near the degree that has been customary before big fights this and that.
The challenge will come when some big, strong heavyweight comes along who can fold him up in his arms and try to do the things that Douglas did to him. Then we'll find out whether he wants to be a champion of the 90s as well as he was for a brief time in the 80s.
Mike Tyson's record, 37 wins, 1 loss, 33 knockouts. He started his career with the 19 consecutive knockouts before James Tillis and Mitch Green solved the mystery of how to go 12 full rounds with Tyson. Later, Bone Crusher Smith and Tony Tucker did the same thing. But other than that, it's been all knockouts. And mostly his, the one by Douglas. There's a look at Rich Giacchetti.
Yes, that's the new executive trainer in charge of the team. He was really imposed on Tyson. Tyson didn't want him, but finally he agreed to accept him. And there is Eddie Aliano, the new cut man, known as Eddie the Clot Aliano, and of infamous corner treat by the this man won't let anything like that happen again.
Tail of the tape for Tyson versus Tillman. You can see that Tillman is much the senior of the two and the taller. Tyson weighing in at 217, and he looked very thin for Mike. Smaller in the eyes of many than was the case at 221 or 222. 71 inches reach as opposed to the 81 inches for the much taller Henry Tillman.
And our punch stat numbers. Interesting numbers there on what Tyson did in his 10 previous title fights, the activity he had. A quick reading of that might tell you, well, Mike Tyson wasn't the same against Buster Douglas. My reading of it is that Buster Douglas didn't let him throw as many punches. He kept him busy defending Buster Douglas's punches. In any event, there you see Tillman's activity in the 2 fights that he lost against Holyfield and Cooper, and you can see he throws a lot of punches, doesn't land a lot because he's fleeing as he throws. And there you see the jabs. Tillman will have to throw a lot of, but the plain truth is he doesn't have anything to worry Tyson about.
Nevada rules again, 3 judges scoring on the 10-point must, and once again the most important rule, if one of the fighters goes down 3 times in a round, the fight is over. Let's go back up to Chuck Hull.
Ladies and gentlemen, the officials assigned for the next bout of the evening by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. The judges will be Chuck Champa, Art Lurie, and Dalby Shirley. Your referee is Richard Steele. The next bout of the evening, a co-main event of the night, featuring 10 rounds of boxing in the heavyweight division. Introducing, in the blue corner, fighting out of Los Angeles, California, weighing in at 215 pounds, with a professional record of 20 wins, 4 defeats with 14 KOs. He was a gold medalist in the 23rd Olympiad in Los Angeles, California. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Henry Tillman. Corner from Catskill, New York, 217 pounds. The record consists of 37 wins, 1 defeat with 33 KOs. He is a former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson is a 1-2 favorite to knock out his opponent in the first round. That means if you wanted to make $2, you'd have to bet $4. The over-under is 2.5 rounds, the lowest I've ever heard of. That means you can bet on whether the fight goes past 2.5 rounds or less than 2.5 rounds. here in Las Vegas.
And given the choice of opponents, you have to believe that what the Tyson camp dearly wants for their fighter is one of those 90-second knockouts on which his destroyer reputation was built.
You see what's happening here with Henry Tillman. He's I watch Henry Tillman because I respect Henry Tillman. But in doing so, he may leave himself open because he's trying so hard to impress. You see the right hand by Henry Tillman. Mike Tyson must be aggressive, but he must be careful, not to rush in there.
Now, question, how much does that remind Tyson of the overhead right that Buster Douglas kept stuffing into his mouth in Tokyo?
Every time that Tillman lands a punch, it reminds him, it brings back that memory. Mike Tyson is a man with conviction. He wants to be impressive. He wants to impress not only himself, but to the critics and say, Mike Tyson was beaten soundly by Buster Douglas.
Tillman's idea, move, box, jab, fast combinations, give Tyson angles. All very well and good. What happens when he gets hit?
That right hand of Tillman needs to be close to that chin. You notice when he drops it, periodically he drops it. Now, he's doing the right thing, Tillman is. When Tyson comes inside, if he's not going to punch him up,
solid right Tyson body. Tillman stacks backward. Mike goes at him, and Tillman grabs and holds on.
I believe Tillman's going to stand there and try to drop his right hand because he's trying to time Mike Tyson's onslaught. Not that much movement from Tillman now.
Tillman missed with an overhand right. Trying exactly as you said he would to drop it in. Right to the face of Tillman. He grabs and holds on. That one was a bit of a glancing blow.
Tillman now is trying to do a lot more movement now. Allow to
That'll be enough.
Surprise!
And Tyson rushes to Tillman to help him up, which may not at the moment be the very best idea. There's a huge crowd around the fallen fighter who probably needs a little air. It was a right hand in close quarters to the forehead, and it was quite enough.
The snake always devours the frog. My over-under was 90 seconds. I think it went over.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who are probably surprised by how far it went. Henry Tillman, known to take a punch, took one solid blow early in the round, and a vicious shot to the body, and finally it was that right to the forehead that was enough.
The question I have as we watch this again, and there is the punch, a high punch on the forehead, the same sort of a punch that knocked out Trevor Berbick when Mike Tyson won the heavyweight championship. The question I have is whether you can sell another doubleheader like this with a combined 6 or 7 minutes of fighting.
Well, if it's Francesco Damiani and Alex Stewart, as appears to be the case in September, those are fighters with better credentials than those of Tyson-Rodrigues and Henry Tillman.
This is true, but I'm just curious. I don't know whether you can. I'm not saying you can't sell it. I'm just asking whether you can. We came here for a 2-ring circus, and we got it.
One more look at the Hail Mary right hand. I know I'm going to land it somewhere here. And Tillman never responded at all to Richard Steele's count. Go up to Chuck Hull for the official announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 2 minutes, 47 seconds of the first round. The winner by a knockout, Iron Mike Tyson.
So, referee Richard Steele raises the hand of Mike Tyson. There's Rich Giacchetti. A very successful debut for Rich Giacchetti. And here you see the total punches in the round. Tillman landed 4, Tyson 14, according to our statisticians. Not that it makes any difference. If there was any doubt going into this fight, and there wasn't, Tillman landed a hard, clean right on the button of Tyson early in the round. Barely blinked. There's the crowd standing around. It's been a curious crowd. I think the crowd knew what it was coming for, which was a show, a circus as we've been calling it. There wasn't a lot of high excitement about it, just a lot of high curiosity. To see 2 former champions performing. Go through it one more time. Left jab, bang, right over the right jab. Perfect shot by Mike Tyson. Once again, Henry Tillman, too brave for his chin. Now to you, Jim.
All right, Mike Tyson has joined us now at ringside. Mike, a lot of people thought that maybe you had some questions to answer for yourself tonight. Were there questions in your mind, and if so, did you answer them?
No, I didn't have much doubt on the outcome of the fight. It's just that I was skeptical because I didn't give my best performance. You know what I mean? I had no idea that I knew I was always the same person still. It's just that I was reluctant in the situation. And
how did performance you?
It helps, you know, come back. You got your win. It helps the confidence. But I want to fight often as I possibly can.
How much can you learn from 2 minutes and 47 seconds? There are some who would contend that maybe you should have taken a tougher opponent and stayed in the ring longer.
Well, as you know, as Ray knows, I'm already an experienced fighter. If I would have went 10 rounds, I was in good shape to go 10 or 15 rounds. I'm already an experienced fighter. It's just that I prefer to be more often active than I have been.
Question, Ray?
Well, I said earlier that, Mike, that you wanted to get this fight over with as soon as possible. Also, you know, there are people that say, well, it's not as formidable and this shouldn't be a problem. I thought it was an achievement because the fact of the matter is, because he was not considered a formidable opponent, that meant your mind had to be right.
Absolutely. And the most, when people tell me that this guy's going to be a pushover, that's when I worry. That's when I worry. Like Buster Douglas wasn't supposed to be a pushover, not making a big issue of it. By no doubt, I'm the best fighter in the universe, and I'm coming back to regain the title.
Will it satisfy you to come back in 3 months against the likes of an Alex Stewart, as appears to be the plan?
Perhaps 2 months. I fight anyone in the world.
Not frequently as you had in the period when you won the title?
Absolutely. People, you know, you're put to a claim that all my personal problem. They say, well, he overcame the personal problem. He's still fighting. He's going through the war. But it's not the personal problem. It's the aftermath of the personal problem that really catches up because of the activity part. You know, you have to, in our business, Ray knows, you have to stay active. You know what I mean? The situation where he was in, he was dropped. You know what I mean? Active, if he was active, that would never happen. Because, as you know, Ray Lay is the best fighter of his generation.
Did you see Foreman against Tyson-Rodrigues?
I didn't watch anything. My main concern was the common finish of Henry Tillman.
All right, Evander Holyfield is going to get the first shot against Buster Douglas. How much is it going to bother you if you had to wait several more months, perhaps even a year or more?
I'm going to stay active, but regardless of the issue, it's going to be a tough fight. And after the tough fight, the winner got me.
Anything else, Ray?
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you, Ray.
Congratulations, Mike. I should point out that Mike put Ray and me in a little bit of an awkward position tonight because he preferred to be interviewed by us rather than by Larry Merchant, whose custom it would have been to do that interview. Mike made his own choice about that. We didn't feel all that great about doing it. We did our job so that you could hear Mike's reaction to what happened at bout. And what Mike said, and you heard it.
Civilization. I thought it was good. I thought the fight he fought was good. He did what he had to do against an opponent he figured to do it against, basically. We got what we expected to get tonight. It's as simple as that. I thought that both fights wouldn't last more than a combined total of 9 minutes, and we didn't get it. And The people here, I don't think they can be unhappy because they can't say they weren't warned.
Indeed, obviously, Ray, there was tremendous public interest in what happened here tonight. Certainly it would appear that way from the nature of the turnout here, how many big stars took the effort to come to this fight, the kind of ticket demand that existed here at Caesars. But once again, you've had a one-round Tyson knockout, and it was a series of events like that which caused promoters and site guaranteers here in the United States to begin to think that maybe it wasn't worth putting up all the money that Mike gets for a fight to have him fight here, and that's how he wound up fighting Buster Douglas in Tokyo. Is the public going to stay as interested in September after what they saw from Tyson tonight?
Well, the thing about it, I said the pay not out of round. Came to see a guy 2 rounds, and because he was knocked out by Buster Douglas, they thought that aura was gone. He revived it by beating Henry Tillman, and then George Foreman, who comes back at the age of 41 and was able to do what the average man of 41 could never do in their lifetime.
Final comments, Larry?
Yeah, I've been thinking of our interview with Tyson-Rodrigues the other day when he told us a very funny man bites dog story. Seems he came back from two months on the road, and the guard dog didn't recognize him and bit him in the thigh, and Rodrigues strangled the dog, bit the dog, killed him, then shot him just to make sure. And so there was a little doubt in my mind. I'm saying, well, are we going to get a man bites dog show tonight? No, dog bites man twice. I'm curious about Mike Tyson in this sense. You know, for a lot of people, Mike Tyson was a hero. Young people, he was going to be their great heavyweight champion, much as Joe Louis was, and Jack Dempsey was, and Muhammad Ali was. So those people were really shook up when Mike Tyson lost. Whatever we want to say about his character and personality and the antics in and out of the ring and all of that business, they were shook up. And I assume that there's still a residue of hope here, that Mike Tyson will come back and will still be their champion, and that the defeat somehow humanizes and humbles him a bit. And I expect to see that.
All right, that remains to be seen in the future. As for wrapping up tonight's story, as Larry pointed out, the simplest and most predictable of tales, man not bitten by dog, dog bites man. George Foreman goes to 67-2 with the second round knockout of Rodrigues. Mike Tyson moves to 38-1 with the first round knockout of Tillman. A look back. His hands are so heavy that what becomes a knockout punch doesn't always look like one, and Rodrigues goes down. Was a bit of a glancing blow.
Tillman now is trying to fight Mike Tyson. He should be doing a lot more movement than he is now. He's allowing Mike Tyson to trap him in the corner.
That'll be enough.
Surprise!
Coming up, immediately following tonight's boxing coverage, you'll see One Night Stand, Rich Scheidner, followed by Ghostbusters 2 on the East Coast, and How I Got Into College on the West Coast. All of these programs will be seen in their entirety. And be sure to join HBO Sports in London, England for Wimbledon 1990. We'll take you from the first day of play Monday, June 25, right through the men's semifinals. We'll also have a special highlight show on July 9, looking back at the entire tournament. So join us for unprecedented coverage of tennis's most prestigious event, beginning Monday, June 25, right here on HBO. And now for Larry Merchant and Sugar Ray Leonard, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from Las Vegas, Nevada. The executive producer of HBO Sports and the producer of tonight's telecast was Ross Greenberg. This heavyweight doubleheader was directed by Mark Payton. The replay producer was Rick Bernstein. The feature producers, David Harmon and Brian McDonald. The assistants to the producer, Kendall Reed and Kirby Bradley. Production manager, Russell Gabay. And the technical supervisor was George Wenzel. presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.